Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic, we're going to do nutrition, and we're going to discuss meal frequency, effects on diets. So something we talked about before has been meal timing, and that's in podcast 249. And what that is more so in relation to is when we eat compared to our activity levels. And what I wanted to cover today was just the general idea of how often you should eat. So a conversation with a client kind of came up, and they were saying, this is actually like a member of the gym, and I've helped them with training, but we've never talked about nutrition before. And they were telling me just kind of some pros and cons of their schedule and how they felt they could best get their meals in around their training. And the idea of meal frequency came up. And I thought that would make a good podcast. So what this is in regards to is like how many meals a day should I have? So should I have 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, 4 meals a day? You know, sometimes people get overwhelmed where they'll think like a perfect diet is like 6 to 8 small meals a day. And they're like, my schedule will never allow that. I'll never be able to do that. And I want to answer in this podcast that that's not even necessary. So it's okay if you can't get in, 8 meals a day. There is pros and cons to having more or less frequent meals, okay, throughout the day. And that's what I wanted to cover here. So in general, does how many meals a day you have impact your weight change? So if I'm looking at losing body weight, okay, on a scale, or if I'm looking to gain body weight on a scale, okay, does meal frequency have that significant of an effect on our results? And the answer is no. It doesn't really have that big of an effect because you'll hear people talk about all this stuff is overall calories is kind of most important in successful weight gain or weight loss. Now, if you get all of your calories from 1 meal a day versus all of your calories from 12 meals a day, there isn't going to be much difference in regards to the number you see on the scale. You're going to have a very, very, very different effect on the way you feel in your composition, like how much muscle to fat you have at that body weight. But just pure body weight manipulation, meal frequency doesn't have that significant of an effect. So what I want to talk about on this is you'll hear people say something like that is, oh, it doesn't matter how many meals a day you have. Yes, it does. Oh, overwhelmingly, importantly, yes, it does. It just doesn't have an effect on weight change. It does have an effect on composition, and it does have an effect on how you feel during your diet. Those are significant, okay? And then I'm going to make the case on how they're significant enough that you should pay attention to meal frequency. So let's go ahead and get through this. The components of a successful diet, whether it's a diet for weight loss or weight gain, we've talked about in podcast 41. And calories are the most important thing. Protein intake, making sure you have enough protein and not overdoing carbs and fats compared to your protein, is kind of number 2. Meal timing, okay, when you eat compared to your activity level, is factor number 3. And then macronutrient quality, like are you eating good fats or bad fats, good carbs or bad carbs, good protein or bad protein, that is like the 4th most important. So we said a lot of times people make the mistake of starting at number 4, meaning they'll try to eat clean, so they're going to switch from like white breads to wheat breads, switch from such and such food to like organic, all natural, blah, 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 blah food. And that stuff has some effect, a very small effect. But you're starting at like one of the least effective ways to make change. So people will often put effort into a thing that doesn't get them much in return. So podcast 41 tells you where should you put your effort if you want to get the most return for that effort. Okay? So let's look at meal frequency. So should I have 1 meal a day, 2 meal a day, 3 meal a day, that kind of thing. Let's look at the effect on hunger. Okay? I already realized I said K about 4,000 times, so I'm trying to stop saying that. So meal frequency effects on hunger. The less frequent that we eat, the more likely we are to overeat. when we do eat. So what ends up happening is if we go longer periods of time without ingesting calories, as our body kind of gets more stressed, as it does more work following our past meal, it becomes more and more stressed, and it sends increased signals to give it more energy. So as we run the machine of our body and the fuel becomes low, kind of like that warning light comes on, and the body says, hey, holy crap, I'm getting really low. You need to put more fuel in. You need to put more fuel in. And if we wait too long and we have too infrequent of meals, that our body gets pretty damn kind of like sensitive and stressed out, that warning light had to be on for longer and longer. So then what happens when you eat your next meal, the body says, holy freaking crap, let's eat everything. So that way we never have to get that low again. So anybody who's ever ran their car and actually ran out of gas, I have done that a couple times in my life, unfortunately. And once you do it once, if you're smart, you'll only do it once. If you're dumb like me, you've done it a couple times. But it makes you very sensitive to whether you're going to run out of gas again. So if you run your car out of gas, then all of a sudden when it gets to like a quarter tank next time, you're going to be more likely to try to hurry up and fill it up just so that you don't get caught again running out of gas. So that's what our body does, is when we run it really low on calories because we have infrequent meals, it says, holy crap, let's take in even more fuel next time so that way we never have to get this low again. So our hunger per meal increases as we have less frequent meals. So if I only eat 2 meals a day, I'm more likely to overeat at both of those meals. Whereas if I tried to have 4 meals a day, I'm significantly less likely to overeat at each of those meals. Because our body won't be sending a signal that says, hey, holy crap, you got to feed me a whole bunch. So the more days you have in a row of a more frequent meal count than what you're used to, you'll find that you will eat less per meal. Now, that doesn't mean the very first day, if you switch from 2 meals a day to 4, that you're going to magically eat less. Because you have the habit of eating a volume of food specific to only 2 meals a day. So you'll have to change your habitual behaviors, but your actual physiological behavior, like how much the body wants you to eat, will decrease per meal. And then you just have to get used to that and accept it. So there is a transition period where when somebody goes to more frequent meals, they're still likely to overeat because they're following a habitual pattern of, quote unquote, filling their plate. Whenever typically, like if you eat more frequently, you may only need 3/4 of a plate, of the food that you're used to eating. So there's a little bit of a time where the person has to kind of get used to eating less and recognizing that it's okay. So you have to let that period of time, which is anywhere from 3 to 5 days most likely, let that kind of be corrected before you would judge whether meal frequency increasing is a good thing for you. Okay, it's going to be a good thing for anybody on the planet, but you're going to feel like right away that, oh my gosh, I'm still overeating. Well, it's because you're used to eating a shitload of food, and you just have to calm yourself down and eat less. So, meal frequency has a significant effect on hunger. The less often you eat, the more hungry you will feel, the more likely you are to overeat. Now, this also plays into cravings. The less frequently you eat, the more intense you will have cravings. And again, this is part of the concept of how the body protects itself. If you're eating less frequent, you're not eating very often throughout the day, your body's running lower on calories and it's running more stressed throughout the day. So then it's going to say, hey, I need you to eat again. And above its normal just degree of hunger, it'll give you sensations of cravings because it knows that that'll increase your likelihood to eat. So if it says, hey, I need you to eat, okay, that's one sensation, one sense of pressure that we would have on ourselves. But if it says, hey, we just went past that, your favorite ice cream shop, let's stop in there and let's get that ice cream. You like ice cream. So it gets very specific with what you would be hungry for. When we have specific hunger, we call that cravings. And the body does that because we are more likely to respond to cravings, to specific hunger, than we are to general hunger. So if the body wants you to eat more food to protect itself, it'll give you specific hunger, which is cravings. Okay? So the more often we eat, the less hungry we feel throughout the day, and therefore we're less likely to have specific hunger, which would be cravings. So eating more frequently throughout the day lessens hunger and it lessens cravings. So if you are struggling to eat healthy because you experience a lot of hunger or you experience a lot of cravings, you can maybe remedy that by eating more frequently throughout the day. So typically, my favorite pattern for people to eat is 5 times a day. Is they eat a breakfast, something around mid-morning, a small little meal. They eat a lunch. They eat something around like afternoon, mid-afternoon, like maybe right after work or like about an hour before the end of work. And then they go home and they eat supper. So what we tend to find is if a person eats kind of breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, mid-afternoon, supper, they're very much less likely to overeat at night. And really the only reason why they would overeat at night is habitual because they're used to doing it. But they won't have intense hunger and they won't have intense cravings. So where people get meal frequency wrong is they either skip breakfast or they eat some stupid shitty breakfast that doesn't have a lot of calories or quality to it. They don't eat anything mid-morning. They eat lunch, and that's the first time they kind of eat throughout the day. And since they just dumped a bunch of calories into their body, they get this like slumpy tiredness around 1 or 2 in the afternoon because they just put a shitload of food in their body, and the body says, holy crap, I got to process all this, stop moving. So we get sleepy. Then all of a sudden after work, we get busy, we do this and that and this. We go ahead and have supper, and then our body says, holy cow, it's getting towards the end of the day. We had that food at lunch, but we burned that way the hell a long time ago. Now all of a sudden we had dinner, but we know we're going to burn that again, and then we're going to be left the whole night without any food. You better eat some more food. And then all of a sudden we get hungry, we get cravings, and we eat a bunch of food before we go to bed. So that's most people's behaviors is skipped breakfast or really crappy breakfast, big lunch, sleepiness, big dinner, then a whole bunch of shitty food right before you go to bed, and then you wonder why you're overweight. Okay, so that's the typical thing that people do is 2 big meals a day and maybe 1 or 2 small little things, okay, that end up turning into big things. But what we should do is eat more during the day. So have the breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, mid-afternoon, supper. Then all of a sudden you won't need the food at night. You might still have the habit formed to go grab something, but you don't need it. So that is a much better frequency because it allows us to lessen hunger and it lessens cravings. Cool. Now, some of the arguments I'll get about increased meal frequency is people will bring up digestive stress. So digestive irritation. So I'm going to get into a little bit of this, and some of those people aren't going to like what I'm about to say because I'm just going to tell you how it is. But it just gets us through this podcast faster. So we'll get past all the fluffy stuff. So eating an increased frequency of food does cause digestive stress and inflammation if you eat shitty food, which is what most people do. So if I eat stuff really high in sugars and fats, then yeah, of course I'm going to get irritation and digestive stress if I eat often throughout the day because you're eating garbage. No shit. Okay? Duh. So how about we just eat healthy food? And then all of a sudden, we can eat, every damn hour of the day, and you have very little inflammation, you have very little stress because you're eating food that's good for you. So, the other argument they'll make is that when you put in food, your body has to process that food. So that creates work. So if I eat 5 times a day, I'm making my body work 5 times that day. My argument against that is it's better to have your calories spread out over small bouts of effort for the digestive system than to have 2 really stupidly large meals that your digestive system still has to process. So if I'm going to eat 2,000 calories a day, it's better for my digestive stress and it's easier to eat 5 meals of 400 calories than 2 meals of 1,000. So if you eat 2 meals of 1,000, your body has to freaking break down all 1,000 right now. So it has to work more intensely and for a longer period of time and a larger meal. Whereas smaller meals, it kind of does a little bit of work, gets to calm down. Does a little bit of work, gets to calm down. So if I told you I want you to lift 2,000 pounds today, you would much rather lift 100 pounds for 20 hours in a row, right? So every hour, you just lift 100 pounds, and you do that for 20 hours. Much easier than trying to lift 1,000 pounds twice in that day. Makes pretty good sense, right? So it's just easier for us to break workload down into small bouts of effort rather than like one or two large bouts of effort. So the digestive stress argument doesn't really hold um, well, let's just say you can counter the digestive stress argument by saying if you're going to eat the same number of calories both ways, whether I have one meal a day or 4 meals a day, it's less stressful in the body to have 4 small, manageable bouts of effort than one large, big boom of effort because it just makes sense with every freaking thing we do every day. So if I told you I wanted you to do a project at work and I want you to do 8 hours of work by tomorrow, it would be easier, okay, to do 2 hours of work like every, it's like space it out into say 4 chunks of 2 hours, if that makes sense, rather than just one all out 8 hour session. It makes sense that we would break work down into bits and pieces. That's how our body manages stuff best. So if it manages stuff best in every other area of our life like that, it probably works well in digestive stress. And that's a pretty good argument, okay? Now, the digestive stress related to if I eat really frequently and I eat garbage food, no shit. Like, of course you can argue that. So that just, duh. So if you eat garbage food and you eat garbage food more frequently, you will cause more stress. Okay? So it's still better for you to eat more meals to relieve and lower digestive stress than it would be to eat larger meals. Okay? Now, what if somebody has like Crohn's disease, like diverticulitis, they have other digestive issues? Yes, then, okay, we could argue that maybe there might be reasoning to separate their calories out to where, like, we have a meal that we know is going to take 2 hours to digest. We then space another 2 hours for their digestive system to kind of get like relaxed, and then they have another meal then. So you might have a meal every 4 to 5 hours with food that you know will digest at the rate of 2 to 3 hours. And people like me know that, by the way. So like I know the digestive rates of different foods. So, and I've helped write diets for people with Crohn's disease, diverticulitis, and a bunch of other digestive issues. So what we do with that is we find out the meal frequency that balances best with hunger, cravings, digestive stress, like energy, mood, like kind of their overall quality of life, along with the digestive stress, and kind of like the calories they need per day to have enough adequate caloric intake so they don't lose weight too much. So one of the biggest issues when you run into very severe digestive diseases or conditions is they lose a lot of weight. They have a lot of muscle wasting. They lose weight until the point where they get unhealthy and have to go to the hospital. So what we can do is find the lowest caloric amount to maintain a quality of health that they are comfortable with. And then figure out the meal frequency and digestive rate of their foods so that way they have enough calmness in their digestive stress so they don't have to go to the bathroom like all day, every day. Okay? So I've worked with people who have had enough digestive stress that they had to work from home because they were in a bathroom so often that they've gotten fired from other jobs and or they're embarrassed. So there are very extreme cases where digestive stress is an issue. So in all of those cases, we try to eat the nicest food on their digestive system. We also try to eat very consistent types of foods, so the bacteria of their digestive system is kind of like works well and functions well, rather than eating foods that irritate it and cause it to have to change around the bacteria. And then we find the digestive rate of foods that matches what they feel best. So I've had people who just ate twice a day and they felt great at that. I've had people who had to eat like 4, 5, 6 meals a day, but they felt best at that. So it's kind of an individual preference on there. But in those cases, we are trying to manage overall body weight for health and digestive stress. Those are our two big things. We can then, they're still going to have hunger effects, they're still going to have craving effects, they're going to have aesthetic effects, and they're going to have mood and energy effects. But if we maximize their healthy weight, we maximize the digestive health, and they have to deal with a little bit of hunger, a little bit of mood swings, oh well. So that's what they do. So you have to prioritize the different effects meal frequency can have on the body to the effects that you feel are most important for you. And sometimes if that means that you have to heighten really prioritize one or two, that means you have to deprioritize one or two on the other end. So those are some kind of specific cases where digestive stress is an issue. The next thing we have is aesthetics. So the less frequently we eat throughout the day, the more water retention we have throughout the day. Okay, because we have bigger bouts of effort for digestive efforts, that causes more increased stress on the body. Also, the longer periods of time we go without adequate caloric intake, our body kind of produces cortisol, and we tend to feel washed out, and we don't feel as lean and mean and kind of looking good, and our skin isn't as tight. So the more frequently you eat throughout the day, assuming you control your caloric intake and stuff and you're eating the right amounts, but if you eat the right amount spread out over multiple meals, your skin will feel tighter and you'll just look better. You'll look leaner throughout the day than if you were to eat that same amount of calories but only have it in one or two meals. So if you struggle with water retention around the waistline, so you have like a little bit of kidney fat you don't like, lower back fat, you have a little bit of belly fat you don't like, first of all, make sure you have enough protein in your diet. Make sure you reduce your sugars and alcohol, by the way. And then you try to eat more frequently throughout the day. And that'll tighten your skin up. That'll make everything look a little better. You also want to pay attention to sodium levels. So if you're having carbohydrates but you're not having any sodium in your food, your body doesn't like hold water well. So you have to make sure you have enough sodium in your foods. So that way the carbs you eat plus the sodium can combine together to form glycogen with water. And that pulls the water into your muscle bellies. And your skin can feel tighter rather than the water sitting under your skin, making it look loose and kind of saggy. So meal frequency does have an effect on aesthetics. The last thing we're going to look at here is meal frequency effects on energy and mood. So the less often you eat throughout the day, you're going to have bigger swings in energy, so highs and lows. So you're going to be flying high, doing well at some point in the day, then you're going to be a miserable pain in the ass to be around at other points in the day. So the more often, like I think every husband just probably laughed right there. But anyhow, the more often you eat throughout the day, the more consistent energy you'll have, the more consistent mood you will have. So, husbands, make sure your wife is eating frequently throughout the day. So, that'll probably make a couple people mad. But it does help if you think about putting energy into a system, little increments evenly throughout the day, that's going to create small fluctuations in the system, right? Whereas if we only put meals like food or energy into a system, one or two big chunks at a time, you get a big burst, then a huge drop off until the next time you would put food in or energy in. So increased meal frequency makes more consistency in your energy and mood. Might not make you have a good mood, but it'll at least make it mellowed and kind of evened out rather than like a manic psycho having great parts of the day than miserable parts of the day. So anytime you find yourself feeling low in energy and kind of grumpy and mad at everybody, you might want to think to yourself, when is the last time I ate? And it probably has been a while. So you're like, oh crap, I probably need to get some food. So they have that term now called hangry, where you're hungry and angry. So if you're feeling hangry, you probably need to double check your food intake and see when the last time you ate. Get a little bit of food and you'll get some calories in your face and you'll probably feel a little bit better. So idiots will still be idiots, but you'll have a better chance to deal with them. So that's the big things. So like we said, the effects on the scale is meal frequency. You're still going to lose weight or increase weight if you look at just a scale. Whether you have 1 meal a day or 5 meals a day or 3 meals a day, it doesn't make much of a difference in terms of the quantity of result, okay? Weight lost or weight gained. But it makes an enormous, enormous difference on quality. So how you're going to feel while you're gaining or losing that weight. Then, if we know that it has an impact on quality of life, how you feel throughout the day, that'll impact diet adherence. If you feel better while dieting, you will stick with a diet longer, right? Makes sense? And if you stick with diets longer, you will have more lifelong lifestyle success with nutrition. So increased meal frequency, that one little subtle thing, can make an enormous impact on the entire length of your life. Because if you can eat more often, you will feel better while you're eating healthy. That allows you to eat healthy for longer bouts of time and more consistently make progress in your life. So a big picture thing of weight control throughout your life can come down to a small picture thing such as meal frequency. So just taking from 2 meals to 3 meals a day can have a big effect. From 3 meals to 4 meals a day can have a big effect. So if you're already at 5, you need to go to 6, it's going to be a smaller and smaller effect, okay? So kind of like 1 meal to 2 has a big effect, 2 to 3 has an effect, but not as big from 1 to 2, so each time you add a meal, it has a smaller effect of degree, effect, whatever, but it's still important. So like I said, is I would typically aim for 3 to 5 meals a day as a general good overall standard of life. So no one is too busy for breakfast. You just have to wake up earlier. So if you feel like you can't have breakfast because you're too busy, you're lazy. Get up earlier. Yep, not going to like that. I'm sure you're listing your excuses right now. So let's all take a second and let you list your excuses. Okay, go ahead. Like, what are all your excuses for missing breakfast? List them out. Okay, congratulations, you listed them. None of them matter. Doesn't mean shit. Wake up earlier, eat breakfast. Okay, so that's meal 1. Then eat something for lunch. You are not so important in your life that your work can't give you 5 to 10 minutes to eat lunch. There's nothing going on, okay, on weekends. Oh, we're out and about. We're just always out of the house. We're always running around. Yada, 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 yada. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. Just stop by a gas station, pick up some nuts. Okay? Swing through like a fast food place, get a grilled chicken sandwich. You are not so damn busy you can't eat lunch. Then you're going to be able to eat something in the evening. Somehow people always make time to eat something before they go to bed. Isn't that amazing? We never seem to have time any other time of the day, but yet we always make time to eat food at the worst time of the day. Isn't that just that just blows your mind, right? How we can have such easy time eating at night, but such a miserable hard time eating during the day. So it's all a matter of choices. So everybody can get 3 meals a day in. It's easily done. You just have to have an ounce of discipline. Then if you want to eat more than that, it just takes a little more discipline and more timing and more meal prepping and planning. So I'm pretty sure in the last 3 minutes I just ticked off everybody. but overwhelmingly all I hear about is people just saying they don't have time for things, and it's just horse shit. So everybody has the same amount of time. It's just how you use your time and what priorities you make in life. So your health should be a top priority, even if you are a parent. Okay, so I have moms all the time that like, my kids come first. You're an idiot. Okay, how can you help your kids if you feel like shit all day and you're unhappy with how you look? Nothing is going well. You have horrible cravings. You have big mood swings. You're not going to be a good mom if you feel miserable all day. And there's absolutely no need for you to feel miserable all day. And what example are you setting for your kids in nutrition? If you don't take care of yourself nutritionally, you can preach whatever you want to preach to your kids. They can hear your words, but they can see your actions. What meant more to you when your parents said things? If they told you this is how you do things, but they did things the opposite way, what effect did that have on you? You thought your parents were hypocrites, and you probably behaved in the way that they behaved, not in the way that they told you to behave. So lead by example first. Take care of yourself first. Okay? That's going to help you help others the most you can. You have to feel good. You have to have some strength for you to be able to give of that strength. So make your health a priority. It is important. So dads, okay, you're not off the hook here either. So you're going to want to rush out of the house, get to work early. You're going to want to crush, your job so that we can make the most amount of money and feel successful in business. You're going to get home tired. You're going to have shit to do around the house. So you're going to deprioritize your health, worry about everything and all this other crap, and then eventually you're going to have heart problems and die 20 years too early. You're going to miss out on all the time with your kids, miss out on the time with your spouse, miss out on quality of life. You are not just a paycheck. You are not there to just feed their mouths, okay? You got to be there and be part of the family, sharing the emotions, sharing the fun. You got to take care of yourself, okay? So you got to make time to get these meals in. It's important. It really is.